Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Bourbon Obsessed Bourbon and Distillery News Podcast, your commercial-free, and therefore money-free, bourbon podcast for Monday, January 26, 2026. I am Ed, and I am joined by my usual co-host, friend, and bourbon aficionado, Dean Langdon. Dean, how are you doing this week?
I'm doing well, Ed. Thank you. It's been a little bit snowy and freezing rainy here today, which is why we're doing this remotely. Even though we're just a couple miles apart, but I don't want to scrape my windshield, so sorry about that.
Well, it doesn't look snowy at all behind you, so I think you're sort of making that up.
This is a beautifully AI-generated distillery, clearly in the rolling hills of Kentucky someplace in the fall, so I'm just trying to create some warmth and some home place feeling for this podcast, because it's all white outside.
Well, it should have generated on a snowy day, because I've been seeing all the distilleries have been posting like these snowy pictures, and they posted them all from before it actually snowed. So I'm wondering how many of those are AI generated themselves.
Right? Yes. Yeah. Probably 98%. So
yes.
I worry about the distillery cats when it gets like this, right? You want to make sure they're taken care of. So
yeah. Well, cats are pretty industrious. I'm assuming they've found their way into nice warm surroundings.
Yeah, they're up there next to the fermenters, if nothing else, right?
For sure. So, you do anything interesting this week, bourbon-wise?
I really didn't do much last week. I talked with somebody who's a partial owner in a distillery, but I can't talk about that because it was part of my work. But it was just indicative that there's still stuff going on behind the scenes all the time in the bourbon industry, especially with the craft distillers. So, but no, I didn't get out and really do any bourbon events this week. So I was hoping to do one today, but it got canceled because of the weather. So looking forward to next week.
Yeah, that was unfortunate because that was going to be the single malt tasting, and that would have been appropriate for Burns Night, which is tonight or last night.
Yeah, I'm not sure. When that is. So.
It's either the 25th or the 26th. I don't remember which one.
Yeah.
So that would have been good, but I guess that's been postponed until next February. But I'm not next February.
Tell me, yeah, next month, right?
Yeah, hopefully we can make that.
Yeah. So no, I know I've got at least one tasting with friends this week, so I'm looking forward to that. I have been doing a sort of what I call damp January, where I have a drink a week, and so I'm looking forward to breaking that because it's close enough to the end of the month now. I can do it.
You could have done it at any time.
I'm a harsh taskmaster, Ed. No, you don't want to work for me.
Yeah, no, I didn't do all that much bourbon stuff this week because we were down in Florida. So I went to St. Augustine Distillery because we were in St. Augustine.
Yeah.
And
will we see a write up on the website about that?
Probably not, because I went as a tourist. I was on vacation.
Gotcha. Good for you.
Not a working vacation. I got my newsletter out. That was about as much. And I actually got a review or two done. That's about as much work as I was doing. So no, I was just spectating.
Good. Well, good. Yeah. So I'm glad y'all got back safely. I know it's you had to come back probably a little bit earlier just because you didn't want to deal with the current weather, but.
Yeah, well, the option was to stay down there, which was actually a pretty attractive option, but here we are.
There you go.
Back in the snow.
So, it's sunny. It's sunny on your background too. It looks like a beautiful day where you are. So
it's a work. What? Yeah. Oh, the Rick House. Yeah.
At the Rick House. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty nice out there. There's very little snow, and it's always warm in the Rick House. I'm keeping the distillery cats company. All right.
Our viewers can't see. Yeah, they can't see the cat on your lap while you're doing this. But that's all.
No, only our YouTube viewers can actually see anything. Our podcast listeners, they have to take our word for it.
Right. Well, what about? Was there any news this week since you're on vacation?
There's a lot of news this week.
Yeah, so let's get into it.
All righty. So we'll start off our first story. The Kentucky Distillers Association, the KDA, has elected Gigi Dadan, general manager of Louisville Distilling Company, as chair of the board of directors. She succeeds New Riff Distilling founder Ken Lewis and will serve through December. Dan has served on the KDA board since 2022 and most recently as vice chair in 2025. As I take the role of chair, she says, I'm deeply grateful for the leaders who have poured their wisdom, passion, and innovation into the bourbon industry. She added that she's honored to carry forward the legacy of America's spirit. She's joined on the board leadership by David Solomon, the COO and founder of Jackson Purchase Distillery, as vice chair, Chris Morris, the master distiller emeritus at Brown-Forman, as treasurer, and Kaveh Zamanian, founder of Rabbit Hole, and Mary Dowling and Pernod Ricard, he didn't found, but that's the parent company of all those, as secretary. Additional officers represent both the proof and craft level members, alongside a full board of industry leaders from Kentucky Distilleries and spirits companies. So time for a new board.
Yeah. Well, new officers every year, right? Your officers cycle through. I mean, Ken Lewis is still there as past president, I think, or past chair, not past president, because Eric Gregory's president. But this is a pretty stellar board. Some of the other people on it are Will Arvin from Castle and Key, Mark Irwin from Lofted Spirits, Andrea Wilson at Michter's, Molly Lewis from Ken Lewis's daughter from New Riff. I think she's his daughter. And Brett Coulsveen from Willett, and there are others who I'm not intentionally leaving out, but just to give our listeners a sense of who's on this board, and there's some heavy hitters there. So it's great to have these people looking out for the future of bourbon in our Commonwealth. I think that's good that they're all come together. They all come together to do that. It's it's the bourbon industry,
And they definitely have their work cut out for them these days.
They do, yes, yeah. They're going to have pre and post cocktails at their board meetings so they can keep the consumption up, right?
Got to deplete the surplus. So our next story is, according to a press release issued by Casey Jones Distillery and B3 Beverage Company, Casey Jones Distillery in Hopkinsville has joined the B3 family, an expansion into distilled spirits that strengthens B3's platform where craftsmanship, people, and smart manufacturing work together. So they describe it as a partnership, but on the local media outlets, the Christian County Now, or NOW, and WKDZ, they say the distillery has actually been sold to the B3 Beverage Company. Christian County Now reports during the monthly Penarel Area Development District meeting on January 12th, Committee Development Specialist Brian Jones announced that B3 Beverage LLC out of Pennsylvania is purchasing all membership interests of Steelworks LLC, which is Casey Jones Distillery. The sale includes branding, equipment, inventory, real estate, and assumption of all existing debt. And according to that press release, B3 Beverage Company currently owns 4 craft breweries in the Northeast, making Casey Jones their first expansion into the distilling industry. According to WKDZ, the current Casey Jones staff will remain in place. So this came as a surprise to me.
Yeah, me too. Although, Casey Jones was founded back in 2014 and they expanded in 2022. So they've, it's homegrown, and the owners are mostly family. AJ is staying on as, what's his title? He's like, he's senior executive consultant. That's not exactly it, but he's staying on in a consulting role. And it seems clear to me that he's done a great job of progression, right? He's built this. He's now been able to sell it. This company, B3, was just founded in the middle of last year. The principals are Joey and Abby. I don't know how you pronounce her last name. It's Feerar. It's Feerrar. But they've got these 4 craft breweries up in the Northeast. And apparently what they do is they sort of unite as far as sharing methods, sharing capacity. So if somebody's over or under, they can shift stuff around. And I think it's a good idea. It'll be interesting to see how they extend that into distilling. I think they're really smart to keep the people that are there. But if they can create some efficiencies with systems and things like that, maybe they've got the appetite for other distilleries. If what you're trying to do is to build a holding company that's got a platform to synergize these things, you need at least two to create some synergy. And there's some overlap, of course, between breweries and distilleries, but there's also a lot of difference. So anyway, I also saw someplace, and I couldn't really verify this. There weren't any financial terms. They're a private company, but at some point I saw like a $5.3 million number associated with this sale. It didn't really give a source, and so our readers shouldn't rely on that, but that seems like a reasonable price in this market, and hopefully serves the owners, the past owners well, as they shepherd this into new hands.
Yeah, I mean, they have a pretty big barrel inventory. They have their whole distillery that was, as you said, expanded recently. They've got a big gift shop area with that cocktail bar, tasting bar, the whole outside area, and plenty of space for entertainment. So yeah, I mean, that would seem like a reasonable price. Yeah, I thought the purchase was a little, I mean, not knowing anything about this B3 Beverage Company other than what I just read as well. I mean, it seemed like this is both sort of a different scope and a different geographic area for them than their other companies. So I was not completely clear how it was going to fit in, but and it did seem like something very, very different, but I guess we'll see what they do.
Yeah. I mean, again, to me, that goes to, it makes sense to try and expand in this market if you've got the capital to do it. I mean, I don't think that's a discount if that price is accurate. It seems like a fair price. But you and I, we visited there. You may have been there a couple of times, but we did a barrel pick there for KBF last year. I was really impressed with the facility, the quantity of products they have and things like that. It'll be interesting to see 6 months or a year from now. This is different from like, what was it, Black Button up in the Northeast, where somebody came in and took it over and shut it down. I don't think that's going to happen here.
No, I don't think that's going to happen.
But over the next 2 or 3 years, it will change. It's just going to be interesting to see how it changes and which direction they take it.
Well, I mean, it's definitely going to change once AJ and Peg step away from the business, which I assume they'll do it at some point. I mean, that's been the face of it, this whole family thing. So, and, I don't know when the first time you went down there, but I went down there when AJ, at the beginning, when he was just distilling out of the square still that they have and doing the fermenting and mashing all in the same plastic buckets or, the old moonshiner way. So they've come a long way since then, but it's still got that same character that it always had. So it'll definitely change when they step away from it completely. But
right. Yeah, no, that was the first time I went was last year. It was, big and clearly, clean operations, systemic operations, but still family, very much family, laid back kind of atmosphere, which is really cool.
Yeah, I mean,
hopefully they can keep that.
Well, that rick house where we did the barrel pick didn't exist when I first went down there, nor did the big distillery building across from it. Everything was just in that small other building.
Wow.
When it began, and the barrels were stored where that bar area is. It has come a very long way, and I don't know if this has hurt them at all, but I know they were distributing into Canada, so that probably stopped. But I'm not sure if they do any other international distributing. But anyway.
Well, it's nice to have. Nice to have this. I consider this a success story. Here's somebody who whether they did this as succession planning or whatever, they've built a business. They've been able to sell it on what seems like reasonable terms, and they'll serve. I think he serves as a consultant for a year. Is the commitment, and so great way to transition things. Good for them.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
All right. So next, Company Distilling has appointed Cassie Halley as its new chief executive officer, following her work this year leading the company's marketing and retail operations. According to the press release on Breaking Bourbon, the Company Distilling Board of Directors named Halley CEO to help bring greater cohesion and clarity across the organization as the brand continues to expand its presence across multiple states. Cassie Halley is reported to come from a blended background of agency marketing, brand strategy, and hands-on hospitality leadership. That's according to the press release. And previously served as Chief Marketing Officer and Chief Operating Officer of Little Arrow Outdoor Resort in East Tennessee, where she helped drive its growth into a top-rated destination known for hospitality and community connection. Master Distiller Jeff Arnett is quoted saying, "Cassie brings a rare combination of operational discipline, creativity, and a genuine love for this industry, and that she understands how to build a brand that lasts as Company Distilling enters its next chapter." So that's an interesting development.
It is. It's interesting to bring on somebody from what I would consider purely the tourism, hospitality industry to run a distillery. Of course, they've got Jeff Arnett, who used to be a master distiller at Jack Daniel's, and so they've got the manufacturing side of things in good shape, and this is clearly meant to grow the tourism aspect of things. I think that's probably smart. I don't know. I went back. I didn't remember much about Company Distilling, but it's one of the newer Tennessee distillers, founded by some folks who were in government, and Jeff Arnett, of course, is part of it, but also some folks from the Clayton family. Clayton makes manufactured homes, and they're pretty big over the southeast, if not the nation. So some money from that family. They also do a line of flavored moonshines. So, I think they call that ASCAP, and you can get things like espresso and coconut flavored moonshine. So that seems to be a draw. And so, it'll be interesting to see how they can grow this and make it, more tourist friendly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because they have a number. I don't actually know the status of all their different places, but they had 3. They may have 4 now. One of them was right by the Smoky Mountain National Park, so the flavored moonshine makes sense. And I think they also had vodka and gins, and then they also had a brewery at that one. So they pretty much had everything at that one there. And then they had, I don't remember where they all are now, but they had one other smaller one. And then I thought they were going to open, they had property to open a big production facility somewhere in that area as well. But I think they opened it over by Jack Daniel's now. I think that's open.
Yeah, I saw something where they either had or were going to open in Lynchburg, which is Jack Daniel's territory.
Yeah.
So that's sort of
I
don't know how to treat that, but
so they've got to be, yeah. So I mean, so they should be pretty big. I don't know too much of their specifics. It's been a while since I've been down there, but yeah, I agree. I mean, I thought she was an interesting choice, being that she doesn't have a background in spirits or any beverage alcohol.
Right.
But yeah, you're correct. I mean, they certainly have people on board already who can run the distillery. So it's good to get somebody in with another perspective.
Yeah.
Another focus. So,
and again, to me, this is a sign of growth again, as opposed to having to reduce or draw back your footprint. Here we are bringing in somebody to help grow things, and that's positive. That's good.
Yeah. All right. So our next story is also growth related. So Whiskey House of Kentucky completed construction of their first 7-story state-of-the-art rickhouse utilizing the innovative K-RAX barrel storage technology, the first of 12 warehouses it will build over the next decade with the Cutter Group. Constructed in Elizabethtown, Kentucky, each warehouse will hold 48,048 barrels and is designed to improve barrel maturation performance, enhance worker and contractor safety, reduce maintenance needs, and strengthen structural integrity and longevity, according to the press release. The company said construction reached completion 1 month ahead of schedule.
Neat design. Interesting that people are innovating all over the place in bourbon, right? I mean, we have different, everything from different wood finishes to different, distillation methods to grain mixtures, and now even to rickhouses. So I think it's really a font of, sort of industrial creativity in our country, and I think Kentucky in particular ought to be proud of that. Some of the things I learned about these rickhouses is they have a full-length vented cupola, and then they have floor vents, so there's a continuous airflow running through these, and apparently it vents the alcohol vapor more so than a regular rickhouse. It'll be interesting to see if that sort of exports the black mold to a greater distance, or if it alleviates it, who knows? Maybe the airflow alleviates that, but that'll be a side thing. They don't have plumb bobs in these rick houses. Apparently, they're structured and fitted in such a way they don't think they need the plumb bob. So, that's a small loss. In my opinion, I like seeing going into a rick house and seeing that plumb bob, and I feel more comfortable when I see it straight up and down. Right?
Yeah, you don't want to see the plumb bob when it's off of its bullseye.
No,
But yeah, that's something. I haven't been in one of these K-RAX warehouses. I mean, there's a couple people that have them now, and yeah, they're really cool because you can. Oh, you don't have to load them evenly. Supposedly, you can completely load them on one side, and they don't get unstable. Seems a little bold to me.
Me too. Yeah. I think I don't know how much I want to test that. Right.
Well, I wonder how it accomplishes it. So, I mean, I'd like to see how it works firsthand. We read about it, but
one of the things I saw is they custom miter the fittings, and so it's almost there's not the fitting of the wood is so precision that they don't need a plumb bob. They're convinced it's gonna stay tight and structurally sound even when it's fully loaded, and they do something it's yellow pine that's resonated, coated with stuff. That seems really weird to me because yellow pine's not a hard wood compared to some other woods, and building a big rick house out of that and not, I don't know exactly how they're fitting it together, but it just, from an English major's knowledge of physics, it sounded dicey.
Well, I mean, probably the softer wood lets it absorb more of the stress and things like that. Like if you're going to build something for earthquakes to be protected against that. So
that makes sense. It
feels like you have a science background. It just seems if you have tons of weight on one side and nothing on the other, even if it could tolerate that, which it says it can, that would make me very uneasy. But I'll be interested to know how people actually do fill these, because it certainly comes from a tradition of people filling rick houses in a bottom and removing barrels from them in a balanced manner. So this sort of changes the entire way that you deal with your inventory. But yeah, very cool. Yeah. And it fits Whiskey House perfectly because they're state of the art, everything efficient. And so I'm sure they researched this and decided they were the best warehouses for them. And,
I mean, they're really, really science driven, and I think they're supposed to build like 12 of these over the next 10 years. So
yeah, at 48,000 barrels each, it's a lot.
Yes.
But anyway, I'd like to see one of these one day. So hopefully we can do that.
That'd be cool.
All right. So our next story is about Stoli, America. So the U.S. division of global spirits company Stoli Group, including its Kentucky Owl American whiskey business, has filed motions to convert its bankruptcy from Chapter 11 to Chapter 7, effectively initiating a liquidation process for its U.S. assets. According to the spirits business, the two entities, Stoli Group USA LLC and Kentucky Owl LLC, initially sought protection under Chapter 11, but were unable to secure a reorganization plan acceptable to creditors, prompting the move to full liquidation under court supervision. This development marks a significant setback for the U.S. arm of the Luxembourg-based company, best known for its Stoli vodka brand and the premium Kentucky Owl whiskey. Under Chapter 7, control of the bankrupt estates will transfer to a court-appointed trustee responsible for selling off assets and distributing proceeds to creditors. Lastly, just to put this in perspective, it supposedly all started after a cyber attack disabled Stoli Group's SAP system back in, late 2024, which they said caused all sorts of financial reporting failures and undermined Fifth Third's Bank's confidence and contributed to their liquidity problems. However, fixing that problem never fixed the business, so the creditors argue that the cyber attack explanation doesn't hold up because the company's problems continued long after it said the system would be fixed. So there we have it. So now we're in your territory of bankruptcy again.
So I spent some time reading through some of the recent court papers, and First, I mean, it's not an automatic. It can be. You have to ask to switch from a reorganization type of bankruptcy to a liquidation type. But once the debtor company asks, it's supposed to be automatic. It's not just the companies that have asked to do this. There's something called a creditors committee, an unsecured creditors committee that's appointed to look out for all the unsecured creditors. They've asked to do this too. Some of the language in their motion is pretty colorful. They lay out some background. This is essentially a fight between the owners of Stoli Group USA and Kentucky Owl, which is apparently a Russian oligarch, and Fifth Third Bank. And, our listeners and viewers may recall they tried to give Fifth Third inventory to satisfy its debt. Fifth Third said no thanks. The court actually had hearings over a span of a couple weeks to consider approving a plan that would do that. The court said, I'm not going to do that. That's not fair. You missed a couple other things. I don't think this will work. And so they've been mediating. They've been trying to work stuff out. The debtor, the committee, and Fifth Third, the lender, have been meeting, and they've had a mediator, and they've tried to work stuff out, all to no avail. And what has happened in that period is there's been no money set aside for any of the attorneys representing the debtor or the creditors committee. And so this is just my opinion, but having been in that position, you go, we've been trying for months, it's not working, I'm not getting paid, we need to flip this, right? We just liquidate stuff. Fifth Third has come in and filed its own motion asking to appoint what we call a Chapter 11 trustee. So Chapter 11 is still a reorganization. Chapter 7 is just shut it down, sell the pieces and parts. So that's interesting. The lender wants to apparently fund more money, because that would cost money, to try and have an 11 trustee continue operating these things and wind them down in an orderly fashion, as opposed to just shutting the door and selling the inventory. So there's really some, my perception is this is a fight between the owner of Stoli Group USA and that lender, and they're just butting heads and they're not getting anywhere. There was going to be a hearing Monday to consider all this stuff. That has been pushed to Friday by agreement. That may be because of the weather, because this is in Dallas, and I suspect that even Dallas had some ugly weather. So that's where things are in this case. There will be a liquidation process, but that could be an orderly fashion, or it could be just closing the doors and basically having auctions. So we'll know more, in a couple weeks. We'll see what the court has done with this. So
it would almost seem like it's going to be the close the doors and have an auction, because this company had tried to pay off its debts to the bank using its barrels previously, and they didn't want to do that. And as we know, it's not the world's best market for buying barrel inventory right now. So they're probably going to have to just get rid of it in one fell swoop. But I guess we'll see what happens. I mean, what's interesting is I thought it's not getting rid of all Stoli America's brands, because they own that rum distillery in Louisiana, I think it is. The name's escaping me.
Louisiana Spirits is one of the is another entity. There's been some allegations that Stoli Group USA has transferred some assets to Louisiana Spirits without court approval. I think it's gonna get a little uglier as it slides down into the liquidation process. So,
because I think that was also because they had worked with Kentucky Owl at one point when they did one of their bourbons was finished in the rum. Is it Bayou Rum? Was the brand?
I'm not sure.
That was a very expensive bottle. I can't remember if it was bourbon or rye that was in there. So they have worked together, and I think there's one other company too that's still around, which I thought was unusual since they're sort of tied together, but I guess they're sort of separate enough that they're not.
Right. Yeah. No, and that's. I mean, I think, again, just from reading court papers, it does look like the owner is doing some manipulation here to try and preserve things that have greater value, one of the points the bank made in its motion was what the owner's trying to do is simply to find somebody else to distribute their products in America and leave the existing creditors high and dry. And so, if you had a Chapter 11 trustee, they could still exercise those distribution rights and still try to hang on to them. Chapter 7 trustee isn't. They're going to have an auction of some sort. So there's arguably some value to keeping that and having distribution rights and seeing if you can sell those to somebody else. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. But yeah, it's people are taking their gloves off and they're having some bare-knuckled fights, I think.
Yeah, well, it's been going on for a while, so it's not surprising.
Yeah.
All right, so our next story is actually a little surprising, but more in a good way. So starting in 2026, there's going to be a significant change, or is now a significant change, affecting how distilled spirits are sold and delivered in California. Under AB 1246, effective January 1, 2026, out-of-state craft distillers may now sell and ship spirits directly to consumers in California after obtaining a Type 94 permit, an activity previously limited only to in-state craft distillers. So a big change. So a craft distiller, according to California regulations, is defined as a distiller that produces no more than 150,000 gallons of distilled spirit per fiscal year, which they have July 1 through June 30, excluding any brandy the distiller manufactures or has manufactured on its behalf under a brandy manufacturer's license. Now, you're the lawyer, but that sounds to me that that's referring to one specific company that must have had a brandy issue and wanted to still be called a craft distiller. Additional limitations on the direct-to-consumer shipping are that the distiller's sales may not exceed the equivalent of 2.25 liters in any combination of prepackaged containers per day per consumer, and that spirit shall be solely for the consumer's personal use and not for resale. Additionally, the on-premise direct-to-consumer sales limit in California has been increased to up to 4.5 liters of prepackaged containers of the licensee's spirit per day per consumer at its premises. As with similar prior provisions, these are all temporary and expire on January 1, 2027, which is sort of weird because they've been doing this for years now. They issue these things and they're all good laws for consumers and the distilleries, but they're all issued on and you could maybe shed light on this too, they're all issued on a 1-year basis, which it seems odd to me.
It seems odd to me too, and if there is such a thing as an expert in California politics, I'm not it, or legislation, so I don't know if that's trying to be protective of their industries or if it's sort of a trial run, but there's obviously some startup costs if you're an out-of-state distiller and you want to ship to California. And do you really want to do that if there's a risk that you're just going to be able to do it for now 11 months? I don't know. California's a pretty big market. Maybe it is worth it, right? So, but yeah, I found that a little bit odd too. They've got some other things in the reg, like you've got to have a signature of somebody over 21. That's no surprise. But the packaging has to have a label that says alcohol on it, contains alcohol. And so that'll be interesting. It's just another little, government regulation that, I don't know how to, I get alcohol through the mail. It doesn't say that. It doesn't say what it is.
Well, I think it's supposed to, though. I mean, technically, I thought it always has to say contains alcohol. It always has to have that signature adult signature required, the sticker on it. But yes, I think we've all received some things that don't do that, which honestly always surprised me, because if you had a liquor license, I don't know why you would jeopardize that by not following the rules.
Yeah. I mean, to me, the signature makes a lot of sense, right? That's you got to have some modicum of, I'm not delivering this to minors, and things like that. So I think that's very important. Labeling it's important if I'm the shipper, I want that, right? I want to know what I'm handling. So that, when one of my vehicles gets in an accident, I know whether or not there's flammable materials on board.
Well, I'm pretty sure the shippers all require that too. So if things are being shipped without it, they're also, aside from whatever federal and state laws that might be in jeopardy of not adhering to, they're also not adhering to the shippers agreements. But yeah, I always find that interesting when I just occasionally get packages, not necessarily from smaller named places, that just get left on the doorstep with no indication on them that they're alcohol. But
yeah,
whatever.
we're in a lawless country. What can we say?
We are. But as far as these California laws expiring, though, I mean, every year that they say this, so far they've built on it to make it even more liberal. So, if I was an out-of-state distiller, I would look at that and go, oh, well, all they keep doing is adding things that help me. So it's unlikely they're going to take this away. But it is still a bit of a gambit, as you say. Yeah. I don't know what the startup costs really are. You have to buy this permitted stuff, but that probably doesn't cost all that much.
I don't think. I mean, if you're already shipping, I doubt there's much in the way of added costs, right? You got to go through, you got to register, you got to get this permit. So, but it doesn't look like there's any specific additional shipping requirements or anything like that. You're gonna have to track who you're shipping to and the quantities, right? So you don't go over that 2.25. But
right.
And I mean, who's responsible for making sure it's for personal use rather than for resale? I mean, could somebody try and slip in here and set up a bunch of fake accounts and order a bunch of it and try and resell it at a markup? I mean, I think that's unlikely, but who's policing that? I would guess that's the California equivalent of the ABC, but don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I would hope that wouldn't be a huge issue, especially it should be less of an issue if people can just go order their own things, that there's no reason to be buying it from a reseller. So
Yep.
Yeah, but interesting. But I mean, hopefully this is more of what's to come nationwide, and we'll one of these days have just free interstate shipping of spirits again, or not again, or I don't know.
Can't wait for my Prime membership to include free shipping on all the alcohol I buy. Right?
Well, yeah, the free I don't know.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
I mean, did Prime include free when they shipped in Europe? They still ship in Europe from Amazon, I think, but I don't know if it gets included in Prime.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I know it does in this country, but I don't know about other countries. So
that'd be a great deal if you got free shipping.
Right? Yeah. Right.
All right. So moving on.
A little darker story next.
Yes, also in the distribution side, poor RNDC. So less than 1 year after Republic National Distilling Company's, according to VinePair's, catastrophic collapse in California and the loss of major supplier accounts, VinePair has reported that the country's second largest wine and spirits wholesaler will sell a portion of its national operation to the country's largest beer distributor, Reyes Beverage Group. Republic National Distributing Company has reached an agreement in principle to sell its operations in 7 markets to Reyes Beverage Group, according to VinePair. The reported markets included in the deal are pretty big markets: Florida, Hawaii, Illinois, Maryland, South Carolina, Virginia, and Washington, D.C. The report notes the transaction would shift RNDC's footprint in those states' markets to Reyes. Upon completion of the transaction, Reyes plans to run the newly acquired business separately from their current operations, which also seems a little odd.
I got the impression Reyes, it's R-E-Y-E-S, however you pronounce that, is more beer distributor than distilled spirits, and so this might be a stretch for them, a new endeavor, and so it may make sense to keep it separate for that reason, at least to begin with. But yeah, this is not good news for RNDC. It makes me wonder, are they looking to sell off other territories? This is a really interesting backlash to the middle tier, to the distributors, because you continually hear suppliers and providers saying it's unfair, we have no leverage. Well, just don't let them sell your products, distribute your products, and there's your leverage, because that's what's going on, right? Is the suppliers are going, hey, RNDC, we're not going to let you distribute our products anywhere, and it sounds like to me it's bringing this company down. So not not the best way to exert leverage because you got to go find somebody else to sell your products, but an interesting sort of turning of the tide in that three-layer system.
Yeah, well, they lost some really major players. I have to think back, but I mean, wasn't it like Tito's and Brown-Forman? I mean, really big things that took large chunks of their business. So, yeah, I mean, we don't know what's going on inside of RNDC, but from the outside looking in, they've just been having these problems, and it just seems to keep getting worse.
Since it's winter, it's snowballing. Yeah.
So anyway, I guess we'll see what happens. And maybe Reyes has to keep the businesses separately because of laws in states, since they're now handling spirits. Probably can't deliver it and do stuff. Again, I don't know any of this, but knowing how alcohol's treated, I suspect you have to keep the beer and the spirits separate in your distribution.
I think you do. I mean, I don't think any of these states are government control states, are they? Like North Carolina is, but not South Carolina. I don't think Virginia is.
No, Virginia is.
Is it? So that's something else that occurred to me, is that may be part of the reason to keep it separate too, is who knows what rules and regs, the government control states have. So
so probably they have no choice but to do it that way. So might as well keep it. All right. Next is a short story. So in an email on January 14, 2026, Whiskey JYPSI announced that they're offering a standing 10% discount on online orders to military and veterans, so active duty veterans and retirees, first responders, police, fire, and EMT, and healthcare workers, doctors, nurses, and staff. And this is for ordering online, and it seems to just be going forward to giving all those people a discount in perpetuity. So, and then they've also announced the expansion of the states where they can ship, which are now Alabama, Illinois, Indiana, Louisiana, Maryland, Maine, Missouri, Montana, Vermont, and Wyoming. And they're also now available in stores, restaurants, and bars, in addition to where they already were now in Indiana and Oklahoma. So it sounds like they're growing quite a bit and increasing. But this discount is a nice thing. I mean, we've seen this in, very limited times occasionally from some companies, but just as a standing discount like that is quite the gesture.
Yeah, it is. And I think it's a nice gesture. It could be somewhat market related, but it also seems to be a good marketing technique. It's a little, sarcastically, it's a little disturbing that the people getting the discounts are the people I don't want doing their jobs while they're intoxicated, right? Our military, our first responders, our healthcare people, but they need to relax because they work hard and they deserve to relax. So, overall,
time off.
There you go.
We have to have faith.
They didn't include airline pilots, so that's good, right?
Or lawyers.
Well, yeah, no comment. My attorney told me not to comment on that.
Right. So moving on, so the Daily Pour and WhiskyX have joined forces to create what they describe as the nation's largest premium whiskey events platform. Beginning in 2026, the Daily Pour's flagship festival, Whiskey Washback, will expand from 5 to 7 cities, integrating WhiskyX's key markets, partnerships, and experiential elements into the Daily Pour's events ecosystem. The move follows the Daily Pour's 2024 acquisition of Whiskey Washback and Art Agave and builds on its broader experiential strategy, which recently included hosting the first zero-proof consumer-facing festival in the U.S. I was not aware of that. Under the new structure, former WhiskyX CEO Brian Murphy will serve as senior strategic advisor to the Daily Pour, helping guide the transition while ensuring continuity for existing brand partners. According to the announcement, WhiskyX partners will have a, quote, a clear path to continue their participation through Whiskey Washback and other Daily Pour experiences, with expanded reach across a larger national footprint. The Daily Pour founder, Dan Abrams, said this expansion solidifies us as the national leader in premium whiskey experiences, while Murphy added that the collaboration honors our brand partners and elevates the industry.
Have you ever been to a whiskey washback?
No, or nor the WhiskyX. I mean, I've seen them
Yeah.
all advertised. We'd have to travel a little. I think they were,
Chicago, Atlanta look like the closest ones to us. Yeah.
and I think one of them has a few in Texas and
Yeah.
DC maybe. I don't know. I'd have to look. But yeah, they've never been right here. So
Right. I mean, I checked out the pricing seemed pretty reasonable. It's like around $100 for an early admission VIP ticket. I couldn't figure out for the life of me how long the event lasts. It looks like it might just be 3-4 hours in an evening, but I just couldn't tell. But I think that's great. That should grow. Just a broader market for whiskey events, and that's got to be a good thing.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, maybe we'll attend one of these this year. We'll see.
We'll see. Yeah. Right. Right.
All right, so that about does it for our news. We had one this just in story about our friend Barry
Brenniger at RD1.
Barry Brenniger, and he's separated from RD1. And I think most people where they sell RD1 have probably seen Barry because he's, I've said, the hardest working man in bourbon for a long time and has been going to stores personally and all the markets and all the festivals. He's the guy that you will have seen behind the RD1 booth with the really long beard, basically the beard and face of the company. So, yeah, so that was an interesting development. I wonder where RD1's going to go from here as well as where Barry's going to go from here.
Right. I mean, he's can't imagine you could eliminate his position. He strikes me as, the marketing arm of the company, going all over the state and the country, frankly, to market the whiskey. And he's certainly very well versed, very knowledgeable about the industry, not just RD1's products. So it'll be interesting to see if they are, I hope this was Barry's choice and that he's sort of transitioning to something even bigger and grander, because he deserves that. So we'll see. All we saw was, I guess, a social media post where he acknowledged he was no longer there. So
yeah,
time will tell.
Yeah. So another story we will follow along.
Yeah.
All right. So we had quite a bit of news.
Speaking of a quick follow-up, let me give you I looked at Luca Mariano today. We talked about that a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
They did push their deadlines out for having a sale, but they're still going to have a sale. They really just push things by a week. So if you want to bid for Luca Mariano, listeners and viewers, February 27th is the deadline. Don't, put it on your calendars. So that's it. That was all I wanted to pass on that.
Okay, no, that's good. We need all these follow-ups are good.
Yeah.
All right. So does this about do it?
I'm done.
Okay. All right. So that about does it for this episode. I hope you've enjoyed this edition of the Bourbon Obsessed Bourbon and Distillery News Podcast, your commercial-free and therefore money-free bourbon podcast. We'll be back next Monday for our new releases news podcast. Also, be sure to like and follow us at your preferred podcast provider so that you don't miss an episode. And don't forget to tell all your friends, too. You can also head over to bourbonobsessed.com to check out some of our over 350 bourbon reviews and over 50 distillery write-ups. While you are there, you can also sign up to have my newsletters delivered directly to your inbox. Finally, I can also be found on Instagram at Bourbon_Obsessed and on Facebook at Bourbon Obsessed, and would love for you to follow me there as well. Dean, where can they find you?
Folks, find me on Instagram at Dean of Bourbon with underscores. Later on today, I'll put some pictures up of some new product that I was given by a friend that you can't get, but it'll be a nice unicorn for folks to look at. So there you go.
All right. So maybe one of these days we'll actually record in person again. Today we're both in the same town. We just are sort of snowed in. So
yes. Yeah. Next week for sure. We got to get there.
Absolutely. All right, everybody. We'll see you next time. Cheers.
Cheers.